day, dear connoisseurs of the utterly bizarre. Sir Chuckleton here, ready to unfurl another peculiar chapter from the annals of human, or perhaps avian, folly. Today, we journey to the vast, sun-baked plains of Western Australia, circa 1932. Now, imagine a young nation, barely a federation, still finding its footing. What colossal threat demands its nascent military? A foreign invasion? Global conflict? Oh no, nothing so conventional. Instead, intrepid Australians faced an enemy far more feathered. Yes, folks, the Great Emu War. A conflict so improbable, so utterly daft, it sounds like a Monty Python sketch brought to life. The stakes? Farmers, desperate. Their crops? Annihilated by 20,000 emus. These aren't garden variety pigeons. These are 6-foot-tall flightless titans, sprinting at 30 miles an hour, with a penchant for agricultural destruction. The solution? Deploy the army, with machine guns, against birds. What could possibly go wrong? Join me as we delve into this truly baffling historical footnote, a testament to humanity's occasional, glorious inability to read the room. Prepare for feathers, futility, and a surprising amount of firepower. Welcome, history buffs, to a truly curious chapter from the 1930s Australia. After the Great War, brave veterans were promised land in Western Australia, a fresh start. Yet these vast tracts were remote, arid, and incredibly tough to farm. Economic hardship, the Great Depression, only worsened their plight. Then nature unleashed its own peculiar army. Thousands of mighty emus, oblivious to property lines, migrated en masse. They descended upon the newly planted wheat, a living, breathing, feathered locust swarm, munching through the farmers' hard-won livelihoods. This was an existential threat. Desperate farmers, many former soldiers, appealed for help. What did the Australian government do? Send in the military. Yes, machine guns were deployed, not against human combatants, but against emus. A genuine Great Emu War ensued. The results? The emus proved surprisingly agile, and the military operation? Well, less than stellar. It's a tale of human optimism, ecological realities, and an embarrassing entanglement. Farming, fowl, and firearms, a truly interdisciplinary mess. Welcome, curious comrades, to a tale of an unexpected foe, the humble yet utterly formidable emu. Forget your grand narratives of human triumph. Sometimes nature has a chuckle at our expense. In 1932, Australia faced an avian army. Not metaphorical, mind you, but quite literally. What unfolded was less a war and more a masterclass in guerrilla tactics, delivered by feathered, flightless giants. These weren't just big birds, they displayed an almost uncanny intelligence. Their unpredictable movements, their sheer speed across the landscape, and their ability to disperse and regroup made them remarkably difficult targets. Soldiers, armed with machine guns, found themselves outmaneuvered by creatures that seemed to understand tactical evasion. It was a fascinating, if somewhat embarrassing, demonstration of natural selection at its most theatrical. The Emu War, a unique chapter in military history, proves that sometimes the most sophisticated strategies come from the most unexpected sources. Truly a humbling lesson from our feathered friends. Who knew avian chaos could so thoroughly confound military precision? Remarkable! The Emu War, a glorious chapter in human-animal relations, or perhaps a cautionary tale of hubris. Imagine the scene. Farmers, frustrated by feathered foes, appealed to their government. And what does the government, in its infinite wisdom, decide? Send in the troops. Not a bird expert, mind you, or an ornithologist, but machine guns. Yes, machine guns against birds. This wasn't a tactical oversight. It was a conceptual chasm, applying conventional military strategy to an unconventional, incredibly agile, and frankly, quite baffling problem. A flock of emus doesn't understand surrender terms. They don't have supply lines to cut. Their only objective is, well, to be emos. One might ponder, what if they'd tried diplomacy, a peace treaty, perhaps a well-placed bird feeder? Instead, we got a lesson in futility, proving that sometimes the most brilliant plans are simply the most heavily armed, a true triumph of misapplied logic.
Right then, chums, prepare for one of history's most baffling military blunders, the Great Emu War of 1932. Imagine seasoned Australian soldiers armed with machine guns facing a flock of very angry, very fast birds. Sounds like a cartoon, yes? It was utterly real. The military aimed to curb emu populations devouring crops, so they deployed Vickers machine guns against birds. What could possibly go wrong? Everything. Our brave soldiers quickly found these weren't ordinary fowl. Emus possessed an uncanny supernatural ability to evade fire. Avian ninjas, masters of chaotic, unpredictable maneuvers. The machine guns, designed for human targets, proved spectacularly useless. Jammed, overheated, or just peppered the dust. Official reports confessed emus were practically immune to sustained machine gun fire. Soldiers, undoubtedly muttering about feathered fiends, found their coordinated attacks dissolving into frantic slapstick chases. Less a war, more a comedic ballet of futility. The victor, the emus, naturally. A resounding, feathery triumph. A truly magnificent military embarrassment for humanity.
Well, gentle viewers, imagine the global reaction when a modern army with its tanks and machine guns loses to emus? Yes, emus! The news naturally had a field day. Headlines screamed with delight and disbelief. Emu War, they declared, mocking Australia's valiant, if utterly confused, efforts. This wasn't just a military defeat, it was a PR disaster of epic proportions. Newspapers from London to New York lampooned the situation. Cartoons depicted brave soldiers fleeing feathered foes. The world chuckled, but Australia? Australia felt the sting of national embarrassment. Beyond the laughter, a deeper narrative unfolded. It wasn't merely about losing, it was about the perception of losing, especially to something so undignified. Psychologically, this defeat, this public shaming, became a curious case study in national pride. The Emu War, though militarily minor, became a symbol of a nation battling nature, and for a moment, nature won. The press didn't just report, they performed a global comedy with Australia as the unwitting star. And that, dear friends, is how a military operation became a punchline heard around the world. So, the Great Sparrow War wasn't exactly a resounding victory for human foresight, was it? The immediate aftermath was, predictably, chaos. With sparrows gone, insect populations exploded, munching through crops with abandon. Farmers were aghast. The very solution had birthed a new, more insidious problem. The long-term consequences? Fascinating. China eventually imported sparrows from other countries. Quite ironic. This ecological boomerang forced a reevaluation of agricultural policies. Focus shifted from eradication to integrated pest management, acknowledging nature's delicate balance. We saw the rise of government bounties for insect-eating birds and stronger fences to protect fields. It's a powerful, if painful, lesson in unintended consequences. A reminder that sometimes the most effective pest control is simply understanding the intricate web of life, rather than trying to snip out a single strand with zealous enthusiasm. Humanity, ever learning, often the hard way.
Ah, humanity. A species convinced it can simply will nature into submission. A species convinced it can simply will nature into submission. We've always been rather fond of the idea, haven't we? From attempting to reverse great rivers, remember the Soviet Union's audacious plans to divert Siberian waters, to engineering vast deserts into verdant fields, our ambition often outstrips our ecological understanding. It's a delightful paradox, really. The more we strive to conquer the natural world, the more it reminds us of its inherent, unyielding logic. Think of it as a cosmic chess match, where we keep moving pawns only to find the entire board is alive. Today, we face new challenges: climate change, resource depletion. And our solutions? Often, they are simply grander versions of the same old tune. We build bigger dams, create more complex algorithms, or dream of geoengineering the very atmosphere. But perhaps, just perhaps, the wisdom lies not in brute force, but in humble observation, in understanding the intricate dance rather than demanding a solo performance. Nature doesn't negotiate, dear friends. It simply is. And our greatest ingenuity might just be learning to listen.
And so, dear viewers, we conclude our feathered fable, a testament to, well, something. The Great Emu War of 1932, a conflict where the only clear victory was achieved by the, emus, against the very concept of military strategy. It wasn't a failure of courage, you understand, but perhaps a failure of ornithological empathy. Imagine, if you will, the seasoned strategists huddled over maps, only to be outmaneuvered by creatures whose sole battle plan was find more grain, avoid loud noises. The modern military, with all its advancements, found itself utterly perplexed by an opponent whose primary tactic was existing. Perhaps the lesson isn't about bigger guns, but bigger fences. Or perhaps just understanding that an emu's strategic goals are, shall we say, rather unconventional for a human general. This peculiar skirmish reminds us that sometimes the most complex problems have the simplest, most utterly mundane solutions. Or occasionally, no solution at all, beyond simply not declaring war on birds. So I leave you with this thought, my curious companions. What other historical wars or conflicts, from the mundane to the utterly bizarre, could have been solved with a bit less gunpowder and a lot more common sense? Or perhaps just a well-placed bird feeder?